I'd say my history is a background of doing, and I actually decided to stop making mistakes roughly about 10 years ago. And I haven't made any mistakes in 10 years because I kind of like framed the whole concept of making mistakes differently. So I just try to do different stuff and see what works, what doesn't. If it doesn't, it's not a mistake, it was a sort of like test which didn't work. I think that deep down in our DNA, we are all worried that we make mistakes. And for example, we had a TV production company for 20 years. And I said that if we have 5 new shows a year, I said one of them has to be a hit. 3 of them has to do okay, and 1 of them has to be a flop. Because if we don't make any flops a year, then we are not trying enough. So what it means is that each and every flop is not a mistake. It's the price of making great stuff. So whenever something doesn't work and people are kind of like terrified, I'm not at all. I said that that's the price of doing stuff. But because you never know, also is that whether it was a mistake or not. It may feel like a mistake at that very moment, but in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, it might actually be the best thing that ever happened to you, and vice versa. If something feels like a success, it can actually be the worst thing that could happen to you. So I don't kind of like classify things either successes or mistakes. I'm doing exciting stuff and then I move on, and that's the way I've been living my life for 20 years. I was playing seriously ice hockey, and I almost made to the National League. But I was kind of like one of the first ones that was left out from the main team. And if I would have continued, probably I would still be playing ice hockey, but I wouldn't be extremely good. But instead of that, I founded a company, and I've been having company for 20 years. I sold one company in 1995. I sold another company in 2005 or whatever. And I'm quite certain that maybe none of this would have happened if I would have continued playing ice hockey. It's great because it changes the perception of your time. Because when you are, for example, doing business these days, it's all about quarters. It's quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. And when you are making olive oils, you also have the quarters, but they are quarter of the century. So whenever you are planting something, it takes 25 years or whatever. So you kind of like, it learns you to be humble. Because, for example, when you are planting an olive tree, you say that you never ever plant an olive tree for yourself. You plant it for someone else. And there's kind of like beauty in that one as well. And it's all based on so many things. When you are talking about innovation, you think that it's always about your own idea. But it's partly about your own idea, it's partly about execution, it's partly about timing, it's partly about what your competitors do, and so on and so on. And exactly like when you are making olive oil, you can do great stuff. You can do you can do the cutting of the trees. You can do everything perfectly, but then something happens with the nature or whatever. And it's kind of like, you learn to accept the point is that there's only certain amount of stuff which you can do about your own things, and then you have to accept, that surprises happen, and you have to live by them. One of them is that I think that we are taking ourselves too seriously. Something happens because, for example, when you are in the kindergarten and you have to crack problems, you can easily crack difficult problems. You can come up with creative solutions without any problems. When you play, for example, on the yard, you are not having any problems. But once you are 30 and then you get the education and then you go to the office, everything becomes complicated. You are needing consultants to get creative ideas or whatever, and everything is the language we are using is pretty much meaningless. We are using way too complicated sentences or whatever. No one is laughing at all. And for example, when you are studying the effectiveness in the office, the fact that if people are happy, they are a lot more effective. But I have never ever seen a workshop in a company which is all about how to improve the sort of like the fun in the office. It's always about ideas or whatever. And I think that it would be extremely useful for companies to come up with new ways how to increase the amount of fun in the office. Or another thing is that in companies, they do such a tremendous amount of sort of like innovative charity, which would be very valuable for the employees, for the company and so on. But it's always such a sort of like obvious ways of innovation. We've been, for example, analyzing is that what if companies in US or in UK, in Finland, would have a sort of like sister company in Africa? So that you're giving all the used equipment to Africa, and then you can exchange employees or whatever. So your employees can go for 1 week to Malawi to help them. So it could be on the same business as yours, but you are helping them, giving away stuff, and you are exchanging employees or whatever. It would have such a big impact on the feeling of the company, and the mission of the company, and so on and so on. But none of this is happening because we are sitting in the meetings and going through the emails all the time. And if 60% of our time goes to meetings and 30% of our time goes to emails, of course we don't have time to think big. I think that the sort of like happiness comes from the balance between dreaming and doing. Because if you don't dream, we just do. If you don't do, we just dream. So I think that in good life we dream and do. And we never know what will be successful. So that's why we have to be excited about trying new things and see what works and what doesn't. If it doesn't work, you'll do something else or whatever. But I think that we should be excited about stuff, excited about doing stuff, and not mind about things which doesn't work, because that's part of the story. And that's why, you know, one of my key sort of like things is that I dream. I love to dream and so on. I think that one of my big passions at the moment is that we want to be market leaders of dreaming in 10 years. And that this is not a joke, because we are building a dream machine. We want to build a kind of like concept which helps people to dream. Because all the services at the moment, they are all about doing. They are all about setting goals and so on and so on. We want to be improving the quality of dreaming. Because like what Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I think that the bigger problem is not doing, but it's dreaming. We have so limited amount of dreams in our mind. We think that it's all about traveling the world or doing something. But there's so many things we could do. We can learn how to juggle. We can learn how to play saxophone. We can set up a school in Africa. We can do big things, small things. And one of my big passions is that I want to teach the whole world how to dream better, how to come up with funnier, more innovative, more courageous, more brave, more bold dreams. And I think that that's one of the key goals that I have for the following 10 years. And then for me, it's all about testing stuff, doing stuff. There's so many think tanks or whatever, and not enough do tanks. We all have ideas, but once you have to do something, everyone disappears from the place. And that's something which I find annoying. There's a lot of people who come to me and say, I have a great idea. Then they pitch the idea and say, wow, that's a great idea. And then they ask, what are you going to do about it? And I said, nothing. What are you going to be doing about it? Because I'm not lacking ideas. I'm lacking ideas or whatever. And I think that world is not lacking ideas. World is lacking people who want to do something about those ideas. And I want to be those. I love ideas, but even more, I like people who do something about those ideas.